Hello and welcome to the Sports Apprentice Bootcamp podcast. And I have a very interesting topic today as we kick off this series with a focus on um, opportunities in sports and how data is shaping new roles, new jobs, and development of the game. I have with me on the platform this today we have the founders of uh, Coach Hub, which is based out of Asia, and we in Africa would like to learn how they are using data to change the conversation around development. And I'd like to introduce uh, Frank Amadio. Hi,
Hello.
Frank.
Hi, Emeka. Thank you.
Yeah, if you can tell viewers where you are based, um, it would be nice to get
Sure,
to.
sure, sure. So I'm currently based in Indonesia. I've been here for nearly 15 years and have been working specifically in the grassroots, let's say youth level of football for the last 2.5 years. I have my own club actually here in Indonesia, which is mainly geared to helping underprivileged children have access to football because it's now become very expensive for working class underprivileged kids to participate in football through academies and even buying football boots. So I offer that to them completely free. And also then on the side, I'm also one of the directors at Coach Hub, which I believe we are here to talk about maybe today.
All right, thank you very much, Frank. I'd like to
Thank you.
bring Casim on board. Hi, Casim. Tariq, actually. I know that your last name is Casim, but Tariq.
Thank you, Emeka. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
You are based in Asia as well. Where?
Yes, so I'm in Singapore, and we Coach Hub is a Singaporean company. We started this company about 2 years ago, and yeah, it's been a good ride since.
Fantastic. So you and Frank are both co-founders. How? I mean, we live in a world now that is so global, and you are based in two different countries. And how would you describe the opportunities that led to the founding of Coach Hub?
Sure. So it was a very personal story, Emeka, in terms of how we started Coach Hub. It's because actually of my son. So my son plays football here in Singapore, and as a dad, I saw that kids who play in grassroots and academies, it's really difficult for them to progress to the next level, purely because they don't have any data to back up their performance, right? Uh, so that was a big problem. And I mean, if you look at professional clubs, the Premier League clubs or even national team, there is some sort of data with regards to players. But when you look at youth, especially in grassroots and youth academies, there was a severe lack of data. So that, I mean, my background is IT. I have been in IT for the last over 20 years. And so my IT kind of head kicked in. I spoke to a lot of people, spoke to a lot of coaches, a lot of parents, and players themselves. And I found that this seems to be a problem not only in Singapore but worldwide. Partnered with a few of our other co-founders, and yeah, the rest is history.
Fantastic. Frank, you talked about kids who do not have the possibilities to make it in the game. So yes, you provide them with equipment, provide them with access and all that. To what extent uh, does the use of data become the passport for them to actually make it? Because it's one thing to have the skills, but there's so many players. How do you get seen?
Yeah, exactly. And sorry if I just maybe make a quick correction. I'm not actually one of the co-founders. I actually met Tariq a little bit after the company was started, and straight away, what attracted me to KOACH HUB and the platform was, as you're mentioning, the lack of data we have here in youth football, and it's not just in Indonesia. It's all over Asia. I'm sure it's all over Africa. It's many parts of even Europe as well, where the lack of data at youth level, grassroots level, is quite. It was quite shocking actually, because I was kind of new into football and I wasn't really expecting it, but I knew how important it was, especially in today's game. Because I think since the whole Moneyball thing there in the United States, and the use of data in American football and baseball and all that, and it's become such an important part of football now. But it seems to be only available for those who have the money to afford it. And that for me was a great tragedy, because I'm 54, Emeka, so I come from a time where football used to really be the game of the working class and of the, let's say, the underprivileged. When we think about football, all the greatest players have come from the streets, have come from the villages, have come from poverty. So to see the game that, there are kids now that not only don't have much access to football, but who's actually aware of these talents, who's actually aware that there's, for example, some young boy in some Nigerian village or some Indonesian village that, he's a two-footed player, he could be the next Messi, but no one will ever know him, So to come across a platform like KOACH HUB that not only offered the platform to have analytics and data, but also the affordability, because obviously budget and funds is a big deal at that level. That was something that was very attractive to me. And I thought Indonesia, very similar to Nigeria, similar huge populations, lots of potential, nowhere near fulfilling their potential. I thought this is something we could use here.
I think you're on mute.
I'm sorry, I think your volume went off then. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So, you have to on a point here, which is Indonesia and Nigeria, they're very similar. And on the same scale, you can compare a lot of what happens in Asia to Africa. And, we can learn a lot from what you've done with this platform in Asia, because, in Africa, obviously, we have very similar conditions. And so, when you look at the how would I put it, the football ecosystem, you have the pyramid, you have at the top, you have the federations, you have the leagues, you have the regional bodies, and it goes down all the way to clubs and academies. And sometimes what you have is a scenario where we often find that it's very difficult to tell where there's some emerging talent, because they all operate in silos. So the idea that you have a very talented player playing somewhere in some remote location, and the guys at the top never know. So unless there is a tournament where those guys go and play, and then they get seen, the possibilities are just, very, very limited, because it's a massive population, there's competition, and this spreads across Africa as well. So my question is, with a platform like KOACH HUB, it sounds like a platform for coaches, but I believe it's a lot more than that. Maybe Tariq, you can try and, I know you named it KOACH HUB, but I think it does a lot more. And maybe you can delve into this whole dynamics of how you get the federation, the leagues, the clubs, the academies, and how does it all
Sure.
work out?
Good point. So yeah, KOACH HUB is we bring in everyone together, Mick. I think that's the beauty of our platform, is we bring the coaches, the parents, and the players, the federations, everyone together into one single ecosystem, right? So in a simple example, let's take Frank's grassroots club in Indonesia. Frank and his coaches are using Coach Hub to set up the session plans, to set up the schedules, to communicate between the coaches, to put in all the training schedules. Then the players get access to that so that they can evaluate what their data is. They can communicate with the players. Communicate with the coaches. The parents, on the other hand, can keep an overview of what their players are up to. Look, we are dealing with youth, so with the very simplest form, as a parent, I know whether my kid actually went for training because the coaches mark attendance on the platform. And mate, that's an issue now, right? You don't know if your kid actually goes for training or galvans somewhere else. So that's the very simplest form. But at the same time, as a parent, I can keep an eye on the data that's on the kid. What is he improving in his shooting skills? What his communications issues are? What his injuries sustained? So we kind of bring in all stakeholders of a particular club together. Now, just imagine that's just Frank's club in Tangerang in Indonesia. Now, on top of that, we have a platform called Scout Hub, which is a scouting platform which is used by federations. So the federations have Scout Hub at the top, and we have, let's say, hundreds of thousands of academies using Coach Hub at the bottom. So through Scout Hub, a federation can say, look, I want a list of the top 15 under 15 players, right-footed, who have played 10 matches, who have got 0 red cards, and immediately we give that data based on every club using us in the country. So that's how we kind of connect the coaches, players, parents, and the federation and the club, and scouts as well.
Oh, interesting. Next question to you, Frank. It has to do with the fact that the game, for a coach or even a manager or a scout, the idea always was, you can watch the players and see, okay, this guy knows how to dribble, this guy knows how to do this and that. But a lot of that has changed today. You can describe a player's performance as much as you can, but the fact remains that they want to see the data.
Yeah.
So this does two things. One, it helps to improve the development, but it also now provides a new kind of job. You have now data analysts. You have also the guys who capture the data, and these are jobs that were never there before.
Yeah.
And so looking at your platform, to what extent is it creating jobs, and how much of that impacts on the whole data analytics movement?
Yeah, let's say in terms of my club, for me, what I'm trying to do is to give underprivileged kids who cannot afford the education that you need to get a good job here in Indonesia, because it's the free education, but from the government school, it's very, very average, to say the least. And the middle class up are all paying for their education at the best schools and best universities. So what can those kids do in the future? They cannot compete. So for me, I looked at football as a way of, or sports in general, you could say, as a way for them to actually change their lives. Sport has always been a way for the poor to be able to compete and change their lives and change their families' lives. So I was looking at, okay, what can football offer? Now, obviously, the player route is the first route that most kids want to follow through and go down. But unfortunately, statistics say that if you're lucky, 2% or 3% will make it into football. So what then? Because and it's not always about talent. We see talent, but it doesn't make it, and we see less talent than it makes it, and it could be to do with attitude and other factors. But so then I start to think, okay, so we can look at other avenues such as coaching. So at my club now, we have one of our kids who was a football player for us, left school, couldn't find a job. And so I said to him, look, you're not going to make it as a player. It's too late now. But if you still have the passion for football and still love it, we can get you a coaching license and you can be one of our coaches. And he was like, yep, I want to do that. So now he is one of our coaches. So that's already provided him with a route into football. And that doesn't necessarily have to be with us. That could be with anyone. He could go with another team now because he now has an official coaching license. And then, as you say, you know, there are scouts, there are analytics, there are lots of different avenues. There are fitness instructors and strength and conditioning, lots of different avenues one can go down the football route. So I think that for me was very important. But I'd also say, you know, with regards to the platform, one of the very things that was very attractive to me and necessary, I feel, for grassroots and youth football is the actual shop window. Like I say, to be able to show these scouts or these analysts or people who come to see your players that, you know, I have this player, here's his record, here's his data. Don't just judge it on what you're seeing today. Have a look at his history, you know, because we have our eyes, it's true, and the eyes are fantastic, and the physical presence at football matches has always been valuable. But we could go to a match one day and the player could be playing fantastic or playing out of his skin, but usually he's not that good. Or it could be the opposite. You know, a player could be very talented. He's having a bad day. The scout comes along, sees him. He's not that good. And that's it. That's all they've got to judge it by. There's no data there for them to look at to see, well, normally he's quite good. So what's happened today? So I think that was very important for me to have data for my particular club. And I think it's important for, like I say, at grassroots level.
Thank you very much. To you, Tariq, you know, there is often the question about, you know, how would I put it? The question usually about, you know, how do you bridge the knowledge gap? And, you know, to what extent do you need to be tech savvy to use this platform? So is there some specific kind of education that you need, or it is a system that just anyone can be brought up to speed to?
Sure. So I think that's why, Emeka, what we did was before we actually built the platform, we did approximately 162 interviews, if I'm not mistaken. We spoke to parents, we spoke to coaches, we spoke to players of different age groups, saying, look, if you have a screen, you know, like this, if it's developed in this time, is it easy for you to use? And based on that, we developed our platform. And of course, yeah, over periods of time, we tweaked it. In terms of ease of use and specific training, absolutely not. It's very easy to use, and I'll tell you this with an example. So we signed a nationwide contract with the Lao Football Federation early this year. And, you know, I was worried, right? I mean, it's a country that does not use English as their primary language. The mobile penetration is not very high in that country. And, you know, I thought it's going to be a challenge. So we started off the project with the Lao Football Federation with 150 players and about 20 coaches on platform. And everything went smoothly. Today, Emeka, over the last 10 months, we now have almost about 2,100 players on platform. We have over 500 coaches, and I'm very proud to say that there has been not a single customer support ticket that has come to our support center with terms of the usage or any problem. So I think I'm very proud that, you know, we have managed to kind of crack that code as to, you know, do we want to make it really complicated, or how easy do you want the UI or the user interface to be, where anybody and everyone from, you know, different walks of life, different demographics can use the platform with absolutely no training. And I think the Lao Football Federation example was a good one, and kind of showed us that the platform was indeed easy to use.
Yeah, and I would just, sorry, okay, I would just jump in there because here in Indonesia, for me, one of the beauties of this platform is the simplicity. Now, I've spoken to many pro-licensed coaches, and they can always say, oh, can we have this tool, and can we have that tool, and can we have this? And that's all well and good. We can more than happily add 1 million tools to it. But the problem is then it gets more expensive and it gets more complicated. And it takes more effort for grassroots coaches who are not being as paid as much as pro-licensed coaches, and they have to work twice as hard. With this platform, it's very simple, but very effective. So, like I say, I'm working at the grassroots level. We also don't speak English here as a first language in Indonesia. And the simplicity of it, for me, is what makes it work at youth and grassroots level. You know, it's very simple and very effective, and it's easily, it's very easy to present to anyone, to the outside world, and for them to understand and comprehend.
Thanks, Frank. For Tariq, the other question is obviously the issue of data security and ownership of data, because it's a platform that is good. We talked about everything that's good about it, but then
Sure.
you have always this worry about what happens to my data.
Understand. So what our company as a whole, Emeka, we run on Amazon Cloud, but we are PDPA compliant. That's Personal Data Protection Act Singapore compliant. We are GDPR compliant, and what we do is we have regional servers around the world where data is hosted locally in that country. Now, in terms of data ownership, assuming we sign a contract with, say, a club, the club are the guys who own the data. In terms of all the player data is owned by the club. But as a player, that player owns his or her own data. So as a player, I can log in, I can view my data, I can export it, I can take screenshots of it, whatever I need to do. But as a club, the club owns the data of all the players. We do not share that data with other clubs. We do not share the data with other entities. So that's how we make sure that the data is protected globally. We do, however, use that data to tweak the platforms, to enhance the platforms based on some of the data models that we see. But in terms of exposing it to the outside world is strictly not done. And even exposing it to the federations, Emeka, we would only do that if we have signed an agreement with the federations, and the federations are the people who actually implement KOACH HUB for the rest of the country. So that way, they become the parent organization who own the data of all the clubs that they do it to. So that's how we kind of circumnavigate the issue when it comes to data.
The other point then is about the price point, because sometimes, especially when you speak about technology here in Africa, there's always this fear that because the challenge usually is you earn your money in local currency, and then now you have to pay in forex, and sometimes it can be such a big challenge.
Sure. So in terms of pricing, the best comparison that I would like to bring in terms of pricing is that on a monthly basis per player, it costs less than a cup of coffee. So that's the best comparison. Now, okay, you can say, okay, coffee whether it's a local.
Now you're talking about coffee in different,
exactly.
markets. A cup of coffee can be such a big deal in.
Exactly. So I think that's one of the commitments or the promise that we did is when we built KOACH HUB, is that we make it affordable for grassroots to use it, right? And I can confidently say it's it's extremely affordable, and the price point is cheap as a couple of dollars per player. Which because again, like you said, Emeka, I mean, technology is great, but if it's not implementable, if it's too expensive, and if it cannot be used, then the whole purpose is lost. So we have come up to a price point which is affordable to be used by federations worldwide, and also affordable for clubs to use. So yeah, and we are in 14 countries at the moment, and we feel that the price point that we have come has we have kind of hit that sweet spot. And maybe Frank, you could have a few examples from the Indonesia and I think Cambodia side, which you were handling recently as well.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I was going to say, a cup of coffee here and a cup of coffee in Nigeria and a cup of coffee in Singapore is going to be very different. Especially as we are producing coffee here. I don't know about Nigeria, but yeah.
But I mean, Africa produces a lot of coffee. So
yeah, exactly. So it's peanuts. Yeah. But again, as Tariq said, it's really not as expensive when you compare to the let's say the other technologies out there, the technologies that are being used by federations or Premier League clubs. It's a huge gulf in difference in price, and that's why we specifically market and aim for the grassroots and youth setup, because if we made it expensive, it would be pointless to offer it to them. I would also say, there are situations that we can look at and adapt to, where potentially, working with other partners and other companies, we can also offer the platform for very minimal fee or even for free, dependent on different factors, which we've looked at with associations. So we always are open to trying to make it affordable as possible. Obviously, as a company, we need to pay our operational costs and have some profit, but we try to make it as affordable as possible so we can get these grassroots and youth academies on board and associations that I don't know about you, Emeka, but everyone I speak to, they all plead poverty anyway. So they're always looking.
Yeah. Look, the reality is that a lot of them do not think about sponsorship from the point of data, because I mean, a lot of brands wouldn't want to give you money today if you don't have something to give to them. And so one of the things you can that you can use to drive growth in sponsorship is actually showing them that you have a proper record. And the only way you can do that is if you have these platforms. And sometimes you can customize some platforms for their use. But the next question for me will be about the integration with other platforms. Like, we talk about technology and sports performance data. And one of the biggest things to look at is you have GPS, you have your GPS, you have your trackers, you have all kinds of equipment and tools that are made available to be able to generate this data, not just the physical ones that you do. So, to what extent is Coach Hub able to integrate all of these important tools into one platform?
Good question, Emeka. So very relevant, and we have already integrated with two GPS devices or third-party wearables. That is, so we have integrated with a company called Playmaker. As we all know, Playmaker is a device that's clipped on the boot that gets the that tracks the distance run, top speed, left foot versus right foot analysis based on the vibration of the ball on the foot. So we have done a complete deep integration with Playmaker, and any academy or club using those devices, that data comes into Coach Hub already. We have also signed an agreement with the US-based Beyond Pulse. That's a GPS device that you wear across your chest. That's a basic GPS that captures heart rate, distance runs, etc., etc. So these two integrations are available on our platform already. And like you said, Emeka, what we are doing is we are speaking to other third-party wearables as well. So to bring in the data, and we kind of become a data aggregator, independent of what company or what devices are out there.
Thank you so much. It's been great chatting with both you, Frank, and Tariq.
Thank you.
My one final question is, what's your message for Africa? How can Coach Hub be a catalyst for football development in Africa. What do you promise, and how can you be that change agent?
Frank, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Well, like I say, for me personally, I would say Africa and Asia have enormous potential, enormous. And I would say Africa is more advanced than us in the sense that they are already producing world-class, famous footballers. But the way I look at it, it's just scratching the surface. Because, like I said, if there's no real representation or no real data out there, and if we look at things like transfer market, which is very Eurocentrified, it doesn't really represent Africa or Asia very well at all. If we want to know, of some kid in Malawi or Ethiopia, nobody is looking there. Nobody knows where to look. So a platform like this really does give a good shop window for the outside world, for Africa to say, look, we've got these kids here, come and have a look. And of course, like I said, if people like to think about money and profit and all that, that's where the money is, because that's where you get to show your vast amount of talent. And I think, if I read correctly, I think Africa by 2050 will have the largest child population in the world or something like that. So you think about how many millions of talent out there and how many millions of talent we could look at developing, or at least having on a platform to show to the world. But now what can you do? So that's why I feel like a platform like KOACH HUB, as affordable it is and what it can offer, is a fantastic tool for continents like Africa and Asia to have.
Thank you very much, Tariq.
Yeah, I echo the sentiments of Frank as well, Emeka. And I think with KOACH HUB, again, because we are operating the grassroots, our ambition is to be the first company to actually have a 360 view of the data of players, especially like we were touching on in our chat just now, from remote villages, and actually it's not about business as well. There's a massive social element into KOACH HUB, as enabling kids who potentially would not have had the opportunity to be spotted now, and also to democratize technology. And like Frank said, Africa is a massive market, and we would like to be given the opportunity to just play a small part in help Africa's football, especially in the grassroots sectors, to leapfrog the other continents. And really looking forward to what's there, and to basically get on the ground and start working with the different federations in the continent.
Thank you so much. We hope that you will definitely try and visit Africa. Been following a lot of the work that you do, and really want to thank both you, Frank, and Tariq, for a very wonderful time. We have our different time zones, and we know that definitely it is. I mean, you are a bit further in terms of your adoption of the data tools and all of that. But like you rightly pointed out, Africa has the potential to be even more dominant than Europe. You're talking 2050 and having more of that. We're looking at potentially having a situation where in that 2050 we have Africa maybe even dominating in terms of winning the World Cup or
100%.
or whatever.
100%.
Yeah.
It should be. That's how big the potential in Africa is. They should be the dominant continent. For sure.
So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure
Thank
with you, and I hope we can do this again.
100%.
Hopefully by then you will be available in some of the African countries. So
Yes.
thank you very much. It has been great chatting with Tariq Casim, who's based out of Singapore, beautiful Singapore, and
Thank you.
very tiny country with a lot of promise. And then, of course, Frank is based in Indonesia, which is huge.
Huge.
When you hear about Java, you think about either the computer or the coffee.
Yeah, and Indomie for Nigeria.
Yes, and for Nigeria, Indomie as well. So thank you very much for being there. It's me, Emeka. I mean, on our platform here, the Sports Apprentice, we try to create a platform where we can show people what new career opportunities are available. And when you go back to the story from Tariq about how KOACH HUB was developed because he looked at his kids' performance and also the performance of young kids and all of that. So we work in the sports industry where technology has become the catalyst for so many jobs and so many scenarios, and that's one of the reasons why we have this platform to show people. But for Africa mostly, we believe that this conversation is something that will help get people thinking more and more about what they need to do. And we have so many academies in Africa. It's unbelievable. Every corner you turn, there is one there. So thank you very much, gentlemen. Really, really appreciate it. And want to say thanks on behalf of the team at the Sports Apprentice.
Thank you, much appreciated. And I live right next to the airport, so as soon as the first invite comes, I'm coming. Yeah.
Yeah. You have 54 countries in Africa. So
okay, let's go. Viva Africa.
Yeah.
Thank you, Emeka. It's an absolute pleasure.
Yeah,
thank you for having us. Thank you so much.
God bless. God bless.
Thank you so much, and see you next time.
Yeah. Absolutely. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.